Hello people, how you all been today so far? I thought about doing another my tier list opinion videos because I tried to think about doing other videos on my channel, but I seem to come up with an idea. So I thought the best way to use my time with to try and entertain myself is to talk about another tier list video. I was originally going to do Bob the Builder, but because for some reason it can't reach the link on the website for some reason, I have to do something else. So, I decided to talk about South Park instead. South Park characters, because I like watching South Park. It's one of my favourite maybe adult cartoons I've seen. So, we're going to have a look to see which one's my all-time favourite out of this lot. If you have a different opinion, I respect that, but as long as you're not hostile, just trying to respect my opinion, please. Especially South Park fans, because I know people will be going, Eric Cartman's my favourite, Randy's my favourite. So, let's go down all the characters that's on here. I decided to choose one that doesn't have too many characters because that'll take too long otherwise. So, the first character we got here is Heidi Turner. I like Heidi, I do, but she doesn't really have much of a major role in the show up until season 20, where she became Eric Cartman's girlfriend. But because at the end of series 20 of Eric Cartman's opinion has changed, especially in the next season, he becomes a real jerk to Heidi Turner. And I can see why she decides to become the female version of Eric Cartman. And at the end of series 21, she decided to split up with Eric Cartman, and I think that's the best, in my opinion. That's the best decision. And since then, she really hasn't had any other major roles, only in between series 20 to 21. But at least we get to know her. She isn't one of my favourite characters, but I do like her as a general interest character. Not one of my favourites, but just a good character. So, if it isn't a favourite and it isn't like a meh character either, because she really hasn't had too many major roles in the show, I can't really put her on a higher level of goodness. So I'm just going to put her in the middle, just not brilliant but not terrible either. Babe Stevens. I like Babe, I do. She has a fair amount of roles in the show, especially when in season 6 is when she goes through puberty, if you want to call it, and the boys becomes really attracted to her. But since she had a surgery, or yeah, I think it's surgery, the boys decide to think that she's not attractive anymore because she got rid of her, let's just call it in the most appropriate way, lady parts. But most of you, that's probably around my age, you know what I'm talking about. I like Babe, I do. She's not one of my favourite characters, maybe because she doesn't have as many roles as Chef or Butters or Wendy Testaberger has. But I like her as a general interest character. Is she better than Heidi? You might be wondering. It's the same thing goes for Heidi. She really doesn't have too many roles in the show, but has lots of appearances as like cameos and minor roles. But yeah, I like Heidi. I like Baby, I meant to say. Do I like her more than Heidi? Probably not, but I like her as a general interest character, but maybe if the two of them have a lot more roles in the show, maybe I might have put them on a higher place, but that's Trey Parker and Matt Stone for you. I mean, they only want to focus on certain characters, on certain plots, especially politics, because that's Trey and Matt's #1 subject, specifically in the later seasons. Butterscotch. Butter is like one of the top 3 characters of South Park in the fan base in general. I like Butters, I do. Maybe not as much as Stan Marsh or the Raisin Girls, but I'll go into that detail a bit later. Butters has never really been one of my favourite characters, but I like him in general, where he's friendly, he's caring, despite his patience can be pushed to the limit at times. He tries his hardest to be everyone's best friend, but unfortunately, most characters don't really see Butters as his best friend, with the occasion of being Kenny and Pitt's replacement as like a 5th main character. What do I think of Butters? Do I like him more than Heidi or Babe? Well, because he had more roles in the show, he is more memorable, but he's not one of my top 3 characters. Maybe it's just because his role didn't really start to increase up until around season 5. His role started to become a minor role in season 4, but his role really evolved, especially from season 6 and onwards, is because I think Trey and Matt really tried to replace Kenny as Butters for 2 reasons. First of all, is because Butter is an easier character to come up with story plots or major roles than Kenny, because Trey and Matt tend to put Kenny on a backseater in seasons 1 to 5, where there's really nothing more to Kenny in the earlier seasons than just seeing him die in almost every episode. Where Butters, because he has more characteristics than Kenny and he has more screen time and more possibly major roles, he has been shown more about his background and his relationships with characters than Kenny has ever done so. But Kenny had 2 girlfriends, and I know this has nothing to do with Butters, but apparently in season 20, when all the girls breaks up with the boys, Kenny was in the hallway with the boys when he was depressed because his girlfriend broke him up. So presumably Kenny had a 3rd girlfriend, but it's never shown on screen because we're not really seeing Kenny with a relationship since season 13 when Tammy Warner became Kenny's girlfriend up for 1 episode only. Where do I rank Butters in my interest opinion? Do I rank him there or there, I meant to say, my apologies. Well, let's just say he's a more memorable character than Heidi or Babe, but I won't call him, in my opinion at least, the best character of the whole show. I'll go into detail about who are my favourite characters eventually. But yeah, Butters is a nice character in general, more friendly than Cartman would ever be. Chef. Now, Chef is a very classic character in seasons 1 to 9, but since season 6, according to the South Park Wikia, his role began to diminish more and more up until Chef Returns, or the Return of Chef, where because Isaac Hayes believed in psychology and Trey and Matt mocked psychology in season 9, specifically in Trapped in the Closet, Isaac Hayes decides to leave the show. It wasn't really because of the psychology, because he had a stroke in January 2006. So I think it's because it was old age and natural causes that. I think that's the reason why Chef began to have smaller roles in seasons 7 to 9, because of Isaac getting older and older. But yeah, I really like Chef, I do, with his singing, and he had a girlfriend in the Succubus in season 3. It's a bit bad that he got killed off though in season 10 because of Isaac Hayes leaving. In my opinion, do I feel like South Park really changed a lot after the episode, The Return of Chef? It's like Chef was like one of the last rememberable classic characters in the show run. Up until then, where most other characters from season 10 and onwards has becoming more forgettable, at least in my opinion. So yeah, Chef may no longer be in the show, but he is a very rememberable character. Is he one of my favourite characters? I do like him more than Butters, but he's never been one of my top three characters either. So yeah, in general, I like Chef more than possibly Heidi and Babe, and Butters as well, but he is not one of my top three or one of my top characters. But I like Chef, a very classical character from the earlier seasons of South Park when it used to be more simplistic and more story driven rather than it's just about politics and the latest news stuff that Trey and Matt does nowadays over and over again. Clyde. What do I think of Clyde? I like Clyde, I do, where probably the most comical thing about Clyde is when he starts crying. He maybe it's just because maybe since the episode Fourth Grade in season 4, I think that's when his character becoming iconic just because of his personal background and his characteristics. Clyde doesn't get too many major roles in the show, but I like him in general, but definitely maybe not as much as Chef or Butters. So just like Heidi and Baby, Clyde is just a good character, but nothing fondly or special or really interesting. Now we got Craig. Craig is a very funny character where he's always sounding quite somber and all doom and gloom and always giving the Call of Duty, Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto 5 characteristic with his very low tone voice and his middle finger all the while. I like Craig, I do. Do I like him more than Clyde? I do. Do I like him more than Heidi and Babe? I actually do, to be honest. Do I like him more than Chef and Butters? Let's just say I like Craig more than Butters, but do I like him more than Chef? Craig, the same as Heidi, Baby, and Clyde. Craig doesn't get too many major roles in the show, but he is quite memorable, he is. He's never been one of my top 3, or top 5 if you want to call it. But do I like him more than Chef? Well, because Chef is quite a legendary character in the show, I'll place Craig here. I like him more than Butters and these three, but maybe not as much as Chef because of the classic seasons where they're more comical and it's more simpler around the time. PC Principal. Now, PC Principal is actually one of my favourite characters because I felt like when I seen season 19 on Comedy Central in 2015 in September, I seen as PC Principal as one of the most interesting and funny characters in the show's later seasons because most other later seasons characters, apart from Tammy Warner and Nathan, and there was an episode where Cartman tried to get Token a girlfriend, but I'm trying to remember her name. Nicole, that's it, I remember her name now. Nicole. Apart from them three I've mentioned, most of the later seasons' characters are quite forgettable. But with PC Principal, specifically in his early appearances in season 19, he was shown as an angry, aggressive, quite manly character where he beated up Cartman and he's not afraid. He's very confident and very serious and strict to any character he talks to, whenever it's Mr. Garrison or Gerald or whoever it is. But he did respect Jimmy because, well, Jimmy's disabled and he can't walk properly. He's on crutches all the time. Yes, PC Principal is one of my favourite characters because I see him as the most interesting character in my 16-year-old perspective when I was watching season 19 about 6 years ago nearly. Pardon me. Now, we got the show's one of the show's most popular character of all time, Eric Theodore Cartman. Is Theodore his middle name? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Eric Cartman then, in short terms. What do I think of him? He is a funny character in the earlier seasons where he's a chubby, arrogant, impatient kid where, you know, he's never afraid to stand up to others, and he's very mischievous and evil. He's very disrespectful to Elaine Cartman. He's done a lot, but I'm not going to go into detail because that'll take too long. But I think the reason why Eric Cartman might be in one of my top 5, but definitely not one of my top 3 characters, it's because I really seem to dislike him in season 21 when he was becoming such a jerk to Heidi. I get he's not perfect, he'll never will be. I know he's a fan favourite, but, you know, just because Cartman has different opinions to Heidi, and just because he treats his mother the way he is, it doesn't mean he should treat a girlfriend like that. Heidi was so nice and selfless, and Cartman was probably Cartman was definitely at his most different in season 20, where it's a season where we see Cartman so differently comparing to the other 19. Cartman became such a different character in season 20, caring, and he listens to others, and he didn't even try to be horrible to Kyle for once. One thing, though, in season 19 about when PC Principal beat up Cartman, why did Kyle felt so sorry for him when Cartman gave him HIV, decided to not let him go into Cartman Land, what he owned in the 5th season, just disrespecting him all the while because of it, he's a Jew. I mean, why does Kyle feel sorry for him when he was in the hospital? Why? Why, Kyle? That's almost like, if you think it's almost like if Eric Cartman should felt sorry for Scott Turner because he killed his parents. Why? That's ridiculous, that is. But anyway, that's nothing to do about with this tier list. Do I like Cartman more than PC Principal? Not as much. Do I like him more than Chef? Well, bear in mind he appears in almost in every single episode. Cartman will be placed on the top, but he is not one of my top 3 characters. And if Eric Cartman is your favourite character, fair enough. I respect that, just as long as you're polite about it. Moving on now, we got Jimmy. I like Jimmy, I do. He goes, "Well, what a great audience." Hold on, let me just do that again. "Well, what a great audience." I sounded a bit like Jimmy. You don't sound like Jimmy in the slightest. Alright, don't be critical about it. I am only joking. I like Jimmy. What's my favourite episode of Jimmy? Oh, that's a good one. He's best friends with Timmy. I'm not sure. That's a good question. Well, let's just say maybe not one of my favourite episodes of the whole show, but maybe my favourite Jimmy episode would be Cripple Fight, where he fights Timmy Birch, but they become friends eventually. Do I like Jimmy more than PC Principal? Definitely not. Do I like him more than Eric Cartman? Well, despite the fact that Eric is a funny character in the earlier seasons, and he created a song "I Hate You Guys," which is a very nice song. It should be on CBeebies or Cartoonito. I am only joking. Maybe not as much as Eric Cartman, but he is a friendly character. Do I like him more than Chef? Maybe not as much, but I like Jimmy as a general interest character. Do I like him more than Craig? That's a, that's the problem. All these characters with Craig, Butters, Heidi, Baby, and Clyde, they all seem so similar in my opinion. They're all got that similar opinion where, they're not, they're good characters, but they're not fan favorites, but they're not horrible characters either at the same time. So, if I had to put any other character that isn't as good as Chef, it'll be all of these other characters. Do I like Jimmy more than Craig and Butters? That's a difficult question. They're all similar in my opinion. I got a similar opinion based on these 6 characters. It's a difficult choice because I like all these characters, but they're not my favourites. But I seem to struggle. Which one do I like more than, or what do I least like? That's a difficult choice. I won't worry about it. Kenny McCormick. I like Kenny, I do. Kenny I think he's always been written to be a comic relief character where he dies in every episode, well, almost every episode, seasons 1 to 5. But because Trey and Matt began to run out of ideas of killing Kenny off, they decided to kill Kenny for a period of time, for real. In the 5th season, Kenny dies, but he returns in the Christmas episode in season 6, Red Sleigh Down, I think it's called, where Kenny returns, and he has many roles in the show since season 7, but he rarely dies, and he rarely dies from season 7 and onwards because of the changes. Though I like Kenny more than PC Principal. Not really. I like Kenny, but not as much as PC Principal. Do I like him more than Eric Cartman? Well, I like Kenny more than Cartman is because he reminds me of Aaron. And one of the characters is like me, but I will go into that detail very soon. It's like Kenny is like Aaron in fictionally. He's like Aaron. Eric's like Harry Murray because I don't know. That's just my way of my autism, where I see real people as fictional characters. I might do a separate video based on autism and fictionality. Yeah, I like Kenny more than Cartman in my opinion, but not as much as PC Principal, so that's my opinion based on Kenny. He's got 2 girlfriends and Cartman only ever had 1 in season 20. Oh dear, opinions will be opinions. Ike Broflovsky. What do I think of Ike? I like Ike for when he says, "Don't kick the goddamn baby," in the episode cancelled in season 7. But he's never really been an interesting character to me. Maybe it's because he definitely got a lot less roles in the whole show. And maybe because he's younger than most other characters. I find him alright. I like when Kyle kicks him, but he's nothing really special to me. But I don't mind him. He's not my worst character, but I wouldn't call him any of. I wouldn't say he's better than any of these other characters, in my opinion. Karl Bowsky. Now, this is one of the show's popular characters. What do I think of Kyle? I like Kyle that he takes a lot of situations seriously and he tries to get along with most mates, but then now and again, sometimes in some episodes, some of his classmates actually beat him up, or they seem to like to take on Eric Cartman's side. Yeah, I think the only time we ever see Kyle like in a romantic relationship is when he meets Rebecca Cotswold in season 3 in Hooked on Monkey Phonics, I think it's called, where Cartman tries to win a spelling competition with his monkey mate, but it didn't go according to plan. And it was really the only time we saw Kyle with nearly his own girlfriend. He did get to know Leslie in season 19, but it was never established that they became boyfriend and girlfriend. So apart from Kenny, Stan, and Cartman, Kyle never really had his own girlfriend before, despite he tried his hardest to live on in life and try to get along in Colorado. Bless him. Do I like Kyle more than PC Principal? No, I definitely don't. Do I like him more than Kenny? Never. Kyle's never been one of my top 3. Do I like him more than Cartman? Not really, just because Cartman was funnier in the earlier seasons. Do I like him more than Chef? No, I definitely don't. Do I like him more than Jimmy? Again, we bump into this situation. I like Kyle, but he's not one of my favourites. But I like him more than his foster brother Ike. But do I like him more than Clyde? I do actually. Do I like him more than Babe? I think if I had to pick a character that's maybe my least favourite, it would be any character from Babe. That would be Kyle, Clyde, and Ike. Maybe because Ike doesn't seem to capture much interest, and Kyle and Clyde are like interesting characters and memorable characters, but they're not really my favourites. Opinions will be opinions. Mr. Mackie we got next. What do I think of him? I like Mr. Mackie, I do. He's very educational with his job and to his students about many things. He is one of the longest teachers at South Park Elementary, where most other characters from the classic series no longer works at South Park Elementary. I think he might be the only character left from season 1 to actually appear in South Park Elementary, or was it that season 2? But he is definitely the oldest teacher there now, because every other teacher didn't work at elementary until maybe from season 3 and onwards, like Richard Adler, the guy that tried to kill himself multiple times in the season 3 episode Twig versus Craig, or is it Craig versus Twig? I think it's definitely that. Do I like him more than PC Principal? Not really, but do I like him more than Kenny and Cartman, or Kenny and Cartman? Let's just say I like Mr. Mackie more than Cartman, but not as much as Kenny is because he's actually very funny. He is with his voice. Okay. No, not cool, okay. Yeah, he's always got that booming voice where it doesn't sound normal or sounds like what everyone else would talk. Yeah. Mr. Slave. I found him alright. He doesn't have too many roles. He's a very weird character at the same time, where Lemmy Quince went in his bottom and threw in his body part. And he also got Paris Hilton, I think, from season 8. Yeah, he also had Paris Hilton in himself, which is very interesting. I definitely don't like him as much as PC Principal or Kenny or Mr. Mackie. To be honest, I like Kyle and Clyde more than Mr. Slave, but I definitely like Mr. Slave a little bit more than Ike. But he's not one of my favourites, but there you go. Harrison Yates. What do I think of Harrison Yates, which is Officer Barberry's replacement from season 7 and onwards? I don't mind Mr. Harrison. He's more of a professional police officer than Officer Barberry has probably ever done, but I definitely like Officer Barberry more than Harrison. It's because Barberry seems to have that friendly, bubbly voice where he's memorable, his appearance is memorable, even the episodes he's been in is memorable. With Harrison, I don't know how many appearances he has all in total, but he's definitely appeared in many episodes in the show. Pardon me. Do I like him more than Mr. Slave? I think the only reason why I'm going to place him between Mr. Slave and Ike is because at least Mr. Slave has got at least 2 living beings in his body, Lemmy Killen and Harris Hilton. And Harrison is more interesting than Ike is because maybe he takes his job way too seriously and maybe a bit too physical as well. Well, that's probably Harrison Yates for you. Maybe he's just a very manly, edgy character where you probably get that characteristic like maybe in the Matrix franchise or James Bond or maybe most American edgy films like you see with the helicopters and motorbikes and guns and "What are you like? Will you shut up?" and giving all that voice attitude. So yeah, now we're coming to one of my favourite characters, Nathan. Despite that Nathan hasn't had too many major roles in the show, I like him more than Cartman and Mr. Mackie. It's because he goes, "Shut up, Mimsy!" If you remember, like, maybe over a year ago, I'd done a Nathan impression where I tried to sound like the character. "Will you shut up? Shut up, Mimsy!" I know I don't sound exactly like Nathan, but I try to sound similar to him. Do I like him more than Kenny? I do actually. I like him more than Kenny. Do I like him more than PC Principal? PC Principal or Nathan? Which one do I like more? I think the reason why I'm going to place Nathan in between him and Kenny is because PC Principal had more appearances and we get to know him more than Nathan. But I really, really like Nathan. He might be one of my top 5. We'll have to wait and see. We got Principal Victoria next. I found her alright. Nothing special. She has a fair amount of appearances, but not too many major roles in the whole show. Do I like her more than Mr. Slave? Well, I'm gonna place her in between Mr. Slave and Harrison Yates because at least Mr. Slave has memorable scenes, and I find her a little bit more interesting than Harrison, but she doesn't stand out to any of these other characters, yes, including Cartman. Maybe just because she doesn't have too many roles. Maybe that's the reason why. I don't mind her, but she's not too interesting either. It's because we don't know her fondly or very much. Now we're coming to another South Park fan favourite character, Randy Marsh. What do I think of him? I like Randy, I do. He's never really been one of my top three characters, but I know he has a lot of major roles, especially in the last two seasons. Um, where do I place Randy in my opinion list or tier list? Do I like him more than any of these other characters here? I do actually, because of his, because of his fatherly characteristics to Stan Marsh and Sharon. Do I like him more than Chef, Jimmy, Craig, and Butters? Do I like him more than any of these four characters? Actually, I do, including Chef. Maybe it's just because we get to know Randy a lot, we do, even in the show's earlier seasons. Sorry, Chef, if your top throne has been dethroned. Do I like him more than Eric Cartman out of these two? And yes, they are fan favourites. If I had to choose between Cartman and Randy, I think I did vote for Randy about the South Park fan favourite character last year they done on Facebook. I like Randy more than Cartman because despite he's stupid sometimes and he has done ridiculous things, at least he's not like Peter Griffin in Family Guy where it's not like he'll just push Shelley down the stairs or I don't know, try to get creepy with Sharon. At least he is quite clever. We can agree that he's probably a better father than Peter Griffin has ever been. And yes, I might do a Family Guy tier list one day, but we'll have to wait another time. I'm doing South Park at the moment. Do I like him more than Mr. Mackie? I had to say I like Randy more than Mr. Mackie is because we get to know Randy more than, Mr. Mackie we ever done so. Sorry, Mackie. Maybe you should go to Mackie Donald's, they call it? Or... sorry, that's... should have gone to Specsavers. Do I like him more than Kenny? Randy or Kenny? That's quite a difficult one. I like Randy and Kenny more than any of these other characters. But if I had to choose one of them... I am having a think. The only reason why I'm going to place Randy higher than Kenny is because, despite his stupidity at times, at least he cares about his family. And not every scene with Randy is all funny, sunshine and rainbows, and oh, you done this, you done that. At least Randy has feelings, and he's honest. He is. He never tells lies, and despite he can be a bit unreliable to his son, how Stan Marsh sees his father as a letdown. At least Randy tries his hardest to be a true father to Stan Marsh and Shelley. At least he tries his very best. Do I like Randy more than Nathan? I don't actually, because Nathan is very funny and he might be one of my top three characters. I had to place Randy in third on this list at the moment. It's because Nathan is funnier and PC Principal than Randy is. Mr. Garrison is next. What do I think of Mr. Garrison? Since I started to watch South Park, Mr. Garrison has so far, in my opinion, has been a debatable character where when he used to have Mr. Hat and Mr. Twig, I actually quite like Mr. Garrison in the earlier seasons, but maybe since when he became a fourth grader teacher, he's becoming such a weird character. I definitely don't like him as much as PC Principal and Nathan. Do I like him more than Chef? Possibly not. Do I like him more than Jimmy? Not really. Where do I place Mr. Garrison then if I have to rank him on this tier list? Maybe I like these characters more than him. Is he better than Kyle? Well, I actually like Kyle more than Mr. Garrison because at least Kyle is not as daft as him, despite the fact that Kyle did have a body change in the 9th season, and I will not say the episode name because controversy. Do I like him more than Clyde? I am trying to think. Mr. Garrison or Clyde? The only reason why Clyde is higher than him is because at least he has funny moments, Clyde does. Specifically with his mum in season 16 because of a toilet seat. Oh dear. Do I like him more than Mr. Slave? At least Mr. Slave is very caring and he doesn't educate others about weird facts like Mr. Garrison does. So yeah, I had to put Mr. Slave higher because at least we do get characteristics out of him and background. Do I like him more than Principal Victoria? Well, because we get to know Mr. Garrison quite well, I'll place him in between Mr. Slave and Principal Victoria. Just because, well, he's an alright character, but he's not one of my favourites, but let's just say he's definitely better than Principal Victoria, Harrison and Ike, at least. We've got a few characters left now, only about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. We've got 8 characters left. Strong Woman, what do I think of her? She's okay, but we don't really get too much out of her. At least not Principal Victoria, PC Principal, I meant to say. At least he gets his own girlfriend. I don't know if they're married or not, but they have kids, PC babies, in season 22. I think it was the season where we get to see PC babies. Where do I place her on this tier list? Where do I place her? I think I'll place her in between Mr. Slave and Mr. Garrison, where she's alright, but she's nothing special, but at least she's a bit better than these 4 characters in my opinion. Sharon Marsh. I like Sharon, I do. Definitely more than any of these other characters. Where do I place her on this list? Where do I place Sharon? Let's just say she's better than Kyle and Clyde in my opinion, but not better than anyone from Babe up until here. The reason why I place Sharon higher is because at least she's not a selfish woman and she's a very caring mum for Stan and Shelley. She knows Randy very well and we get to see a lot of their relationship. At least Randy and Sharon has been better parents to Stan and Shelley than Peter and Lois with Chris, Meg and Stewie in Family Guy. At least we can all agree on that. And speaking about the Marsh family, we got Shelley next. What do I think of Shelley? I don't mind her, despite she's not the best sister to Stan Marsh. I don't hate Shelley. I like her a bit more than Ike, but we don't really see too much of her throughout the whole run. If I had to place Shelley on this tier list, let's just say she's been better than Strong Woman, but maybe not as much as Mr. Slave, is because we don't really see too much of her, but we do know a little bit about her background. Maybe if she had more rivalry episodes with Eric Cartman, maybe she would have been more of an interesting character. Maybe if she was the big bully to Eric Cartman, if she had been such a secondary character and she always beats up Cartman in most episodes, maybe that would be funnier, and maybe I would place her on a higher place. Stan Marsh. Now, Stan is one of my favourite characters because he's like me. Wise and not daft, very caring, hard-working, considerate, and he tries his best to have everything in life with friends, and he tries to get the things for the best for himself. I like him more than Randy because he's one of my top 3 characters. Do I like him more than Nathan? I do actually. It's because we get so much background and characteristics of Stan Marsh. Do I like him more than PC Principal? I do actually. Because Stan Marsh is like me, just friendly, and he has Stan Marsh has lots of mates, and he's got Wendy Testaberger with his long-term relationship. Despite that he's not perfect, at least he knows better than Eric Cartman at any day, we can all agree on. We only got about 4 characters left. Timmy. I like Timmy, I do. We don't see a lot with him, but I know he's a memorable character. The reason why he doesn't get too many roles in the show is because Trey and Matt doesn't use him along with Kenny because they don't speak clearly completely. That's the reason why. Where do I place Timmy on my tier list? Where do I place him? I like him more than Chef. I like him a bit more than Cartman. But do I like him more than Mr. Mackie, Kenny, or Randy? Possibly not, but I find Timmy as a nice character, but at least he's more friendlier than Cartman is. Token Black, I think that's his certain name. And no, I'm not being racist. I'm just trying to say that I think that is his surname, I think. My apologies if I sounded offended or if I didn't got the surname right. I think that's his surname. What do I think about Token? I like him. Maybe not as much as Sharon Marsh or Babe or Heidi. Do I like him more than Kyle? Possibly not. If I had to place Token, it will be somewhere between possibly between Clyde and Mr. Slave. I like him a little bit more than Mr. Slave because we see more of him, but maybe not as much as Clyde, just because we don't really know him a lot. 2 characters left now. One of them is my favourite, Twig. I like Twig, I do, simply because of his characteristics. He's not one of my favourites, but I like him more than Ike. If I had to place him on this tier list, I'll probably place him between... Again, it's maybe because the South Park classmates are so similar to each other. Maybe that's the reason why. I'm trying to think. I'll probably place him between... That's a difficult one. Where will I place Twig? I'll come back to him. I'm not really sure. And lastly, we got Wendy Testaberger. She's one of my favourite characters. Also, probably one of my attractive characters. I really, really like her. Definitely more than any of these characters up until Randy Marsh. I like her more than Nathan. Do I like her more than PC Principal? I have to. It's because she's my favourite female character. Do I like her more than Stan Marsh? To be honest, I do actually. The only reason is because she captures so much interest, in my opinion, with her looks and her personality and her knowledge. I like Wendy, I do. I wish we can get a Funko Pop of her, because I'll definitely, oh pardon me, buy one. Back to Twig, at least he's the last character I have to place him, because I'm not sure. I'll probably place him in between Clyde and Token, because we know more of him than Token, but maybe he's just not as funny as Clyde, in my opinion. And that is my South Park characters tier list. Now we can talk about my top 5. I like Nathan more than Randy, it's because it's just my opinion. I did say that I like PC Principal more than Nathan, it's because we know PC Principal more and he gets more appearances. I like Stan Marsh more than PC Principal because he's like me. And my number 1 character of my South Park opinion is Wendy Testaberger. So, you all know now who are my top 5 characters, or top 3. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll create another tier list soon. Thanks for tuning in.